In 480 BC, the Persian Empire was the most powerful force on the face of the earth. No army had ever stopped them. No wall had ever held them. Until 300 men chose a narrow pass called Thermopylae and decided to die there. The Persian Empire in 480 BC was not just an army. It was a civilization of conquest. Stretching from modern-day Iran all the way to Egypt and beyond, Persia had swallowed nation after nation for over a century. Every kingdom that stood against them was crushed. Every army that faced them in open battle was destroyed. The Persian King Xerxes had inherited the most powerful military machine the ancient world had ever seen, and he intended to use it. Greece was next. But Greece was not one unified nation. It was a collection of small, independent city-states, constantly arguing, constantly competing, and deeply divided. Athens, Corinth, Thebes, Sparta. Each city had its own army, its own laws, its own priorities. Convincing them to fight together against Persia was nearly impossible. Xerxes knew this. He used it. He sent messengers to every Greek city demanding earth and water, the ancient symbols of total submission. Most cities surrendered without a fight. The Persian army was simply too enormous, too powerful, too unstoppable to resist. But two cities refused: Athens and Sparta. Sparta was different from every other city in Greece. From the moment a Spartan boy was born, he was evaluated. If he was strong, he was kept. If he was weak, he was left on a hillside. Those who survived began military training at the age of 7. Not school, not play, training. Brutal, relentless, unforgiving training lasted until the age of 30. Spartan soldiers slept in barracks, ate the most basic food, were regularly beaten, not as punishment, but as preparation. They were taught that pain was temporary, that death was honorable, and that retreat was the only true failure a Spartan could ever commit. By the time a Spartan warrior reached adulthood, he was not simply a soldier. He was something different from every other fighting man in the ancient world. He had been shaped by 20 years of suffering into a weapon that felt no fear and needed no comfort. This was the army Xerxes was about to face. King Leonidas of Sparta was chosen to lead the Greek resistance. He was allowed to bring 300 men. These were not just any 300 soldiers. Leonidas selected only men who already had sons, men who had already secured the future of their bloodline, men who could die without leaving Sparta without an heir. Every single one of them knew they were not coming back. The location Leonidas chose was everything. Thermopylae, a narrow coastal pass in northern Greece where the mountains dropped almost directly into the sea. At its narrowest point, the pass was barely wide enough for a few men to stand side by side. This was genius. Xerxes had 1 million soldiers, but at Thermopylae, he could only send them forward a few at a time. His numbers meant nothing in that narrow corridor. The Spartans had transformed the entire battlefield into something that canceled out every Persian advantage. For the first 2 days, the results were catastrophic for Persia. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers was sent into that narrow pass. The elite Immortals, Xerxes' personal guard, the finest soldiers in the Persian army, were sent forward with confidence. They came back broken. The Spartan phalanx, shields locked, spears extended, moved as a single breathing machine. They would advance together, push the Persians back, then retreat in perfect formation, drawing the enemy forward before turning and destroying them again. Xerxes watched from his golden throne on the hillside above. He reportedly rose from his seat 3 times in shock as his best soldiers were slaughtered below him. The man who had conquered nations, who had crossed the Hellespont with a bridge of boats, who had never known defeat, was watching 300 men dismantle his entire army. Then, everything changed. A local Greek man named Ephialtes approached Xerxes with a secret. There was a hidden mountain path that ran around Thermopylae, a path that would allow the Persians to surround the Spartan position completely. Ephialtes showed them the way. When Leonidas received the news, he made a decision that has echoed through history for 2,500 years. He sent most of the Greek allied forces away, ordered them to retreat and live to fight another day. But the 300 Spartans stayed. They knew the pass was lost. They knew they were surrounded. They knew that by morning, every single one of them would be dead. They stayed anyway. Not because they had no choice, but because a Spartan did not retreat. Because someone had to hold that pass long enough for the rest of Greece to prepare its defense. On the 3rd day, Xerxes sent everything he had. The Spartans fought until their spears broke. Then they fought with swords. When their swords broke, they fought with their hands and their teeth. They were driven back to a small hill, where they made their final stand, completely surrounded, fighting until the last man fell under a storm of Persian arrows. Every single Spartan died at Thermopylae. And yet, they won. The Persian army had been delayed for 3 crucial days. 3 days that allowed Athens to evacuate its citizens. 3 days that allowed the Greek navy to prepare and ultimately destroy the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis. 3 days that shifted the entire momentum of the war. Within a year, the Persian invasion had collapsed. Greece survived. And the civilization that grew from that survival, the philosophy, the democracy, the art, the science, became the foundation of the entire Western world. 300 men held a pass for 3 days, and in doing so, they may have saved the very idea of freedom itself. Thermopylae was not just a battle, it was a choice. 300 men chose to stand when every instinct said run. They chose death over dishonor in a narrow mountain pass that the world will never forget. Leonidas and his 300 did not just delay an empire, they changed the course of human history forever. If you want to see how another small force defeated an unstoppable enemy, the next video is already waiting for you.